Welcome back to Media 7. One of this year's Sparta sessions asked if and when Te Reo Maori would become part of mainstream primetime TV. Along with the Kōrero, TVNZ Commissioner Catherine Graham previewed One Land, a back-in-time family reality show. We'll have a look at that.
What would happen if you went back in time? To live here, New Zealand as it was in the 1850s. A land where our Māori and European ancestors lived side by side.
Oh, it's not a house, it's a shack, mate.
Oh, no way.
3 modern-day families. 2 Māori.
Are these our beds?
Yeah, mate. You like?
No.
Te tiro ki te whare iti kei rungara.
And 1 Pākehā.
I think the biggest challenge is dealing with, dare I say it, natives.
Travel back in time to live together as they did in the mid-19th century.
That's One Land, and joining me now are one man who was on the panel at that session and another who was listening intently in the front row. Tainui Stevens, whose career has been a matter of bringing not only Maori language but Maori stories to the screen, and TVNZ's head of Maori programming, Paula Maxwell. Welcome to you both.
Kia ora.
Tainui, what did you make of One Land? I was quite fascinated by it because it's straight up commercial family television but with a kaupapa.
I thought it was a hoot. It's not that I'm a fan necessarily of reality TV, but I rejoice in that kind of television. And perhaps because I'm sort of in the industry, I'm also aware that our people are getting their chops making this sort of program. You know, Bailey Mackey is a superb young Māori producer, and to get the experience working alongside La Christie to make something like that, it can only be good for our developing skills base. So yeah, it's a hoot. Go for it.
What do you think the impact will be?
Oh, the water cooler thing, I think will probably kick in. But anything that gives, if you like, traction to the discourse, that makes us talk about our history and appreciate the stories that we have to tell. It's just such a welcome relief to see our stories.
Paula, you weren't involved with the actual production of it, but what do you make of it?
I think it's a great move forward. I think it's a really interesting idea. And ironically enough, here's Julie Christie arguing at Sparta about, you know, all these ethnic kind of shows. And here we have One Land, which is, you know, very, very much that. It's ethnically defined. But a really successful exploration of an historical idea through a popular factual format.
Well, through a nakedly commercial format of a kind that you know, we associate with primetime TV. Which is interesting in the light, Tainui, of one thing you said during that panel. You said that the entry of Te Reo to mainstream primetime TV would inevitably mean the Maorification of primetime. What did you mean by that?
Well, I mean, when we talk about language, Samuel, you know, that's one thing. Samuel Johnson talked about language being the clothing of our thoughts. So when you're having a Māori language on television, whatever the story, you are by definition bringing a Māori perspective to the story that you're telling. So the more Māori language you have on TV, whatever the time, you are talking about the Māorification of, or the presentation of Māori perspectives and points of view, which is terribly important for our country. So, I mean, I think that there's a lot of concern about whether there is or isn't Māori language or Māori things on television, but Paula and I have both been around for a long time, and we've seen that there has been an incremental growth over the years, and that's something to celebrate.
You also, immediately after saying that, you also said that such a change would pose the question, what kind of thing is going to be allowed in prime time? Where do you think we are on that?
Well, I think when you ask the question not so much about whether there's going to be Māori language in prime time, but whether you are prepared to or going to be brave enough to put Māori views, perspectives on television, that brings another thing into play. I mean, look at the recent fuss over the Māori television service going for the World Cup. And, you know, being polite, I suppose, the aberrant part of our DNA jumping up and making a fuss about maybe Māori language being there. I mean, there will always be the naysayers, but I think we have to be brave and insist that this is the way our country is. Two peoples, many peoples, and it's overdue and it's about time that we have these points of view. James Bellish once said, the treaty is a treaty made in bed, and we need to know about each other, and TV is one place to do that.
Derek Fox was pretty frank about what he regarded as Murray McCully's extremely unhelpful role in the whole rugby rights debacle. Is there any case to answer it all for the other side, for Maori Television and the ministers involved on that side?
Any case to
Could
answer?
they have done it better?
Māori TV?
Maori TV.
I don't know if better is the right
I
word.
personally think they could have done, just as good a job as anyone else. I thought it was a very clever ploy on Māori Television's part and an attempt to expand their reach. I think that's the biggest challenge Māori TV faces. I would actually describe Māori Television as mainstream, and I thought that their idea and a very well executed plan, apparently, around bringing the Rugby World Cup to Māori Television was very clever. It just so happens
Some people
that
thought it was too clever by half to use Te Puni Kōkiri as they already have a funding agency, and then they go to Te Puni Kōkiri and use them as a broadcast.
Well, I'm not here to defend Te Puni Kōkiri's actions.
I don't think you need to either, because it's taxpayers' money in the end, and it gets there on that screen in various ways from various funding agencies. I mean, another thing for me is that I'm not a rugby follower, I'm not a sports person, but I do watch sports programs on MTS because of the way they present sports. It seems for me to give an insight into the personality and the character of people who play sport. And so for, when people say that everyone's going to be watching the World Cup, I won't be. But if it was MTS who bring this unique point of view, I'm more likely to want to than not.
Paula, Tainui just talked there earlier about a Maori perspective in Maori broadcasting. I think what we've seen in the past week is that within that Maori perspective there could be quite strong disagreements. Clearly Buddy Makaurau and Hone Harawira aren't reading off the same page.
Well, they're reading the same emails.
Yes. I was interested in where he did go on his big apology day. He spent the entire day in the company of a couple of broadcasters who I think he knew weren't really going to challenge him too much. I wonder whether is there a danger of Maori News and Current Affairs programming being seen by someone like him as a soft option?
I don't think Hone would argue that. In fact, he's been on marae before and been absolutely, crucified. I mean, Shane Todima is one of our finest interviewers and broadcasters, and Shane he's like he's literally like a dog with a bone. And if Shane's got a point or a cope-up, or he thinks that something needs to be investigated, then there's no excuses. Doesn't matter who you're related to or who you are. Shane will pursue it to the end.
And he has that counterpart in Julian Wilcox. On Maori television.
Yeah. There was a time perhaps when we were softer, but as people like Shane and Julian have gotten their skills, and we'll have a go at ourselves just as much as any others.
I think also, Tainui, that's been a result of a proliferation of Māori programs.
Yeah.
So we're a lot more sophisticated now. We realise that that we don't just have the 3 hours a week. Māori Television has a full schedule, has 2 channels, and we still have our very important slate of programs on TVNZ, for instance. So the preciousness of airtime around Māori issues is not there. There is now time to investigate them and contextualise, background them.
We've had Maori Television now for 6.5 years. How has it changed things for you, Paula? I was interested in the relationship between you. Clearly all, whichever channel you're working for, get on well. How has it changed things for you having the big Maori broadcaster there?
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is that TVNZ's reach to our audience is huge. We have about 60,000 people a night watch Te Karere, whereas Māori Television would be lucky if they had 1/10 of that. I mean, that's the truth of it. And as I said before, that's their challenge, is to attract more audience. Mainstream, if you like, and that's TVNZ, TV3, our responsibility to Māori is still very strong. And as long as we have public funding agencies like Te Māngai Pāho and New Zealand On Air, we'll be around a long time.
Well, hopefully we will. We'll have to leave it here. Thank you to both of you. Thank you to Paula Maxwell and Tainui Stevens. Now, you may have seen ads for a tiny new high-definition camera, the Flip. Well, Simon Pound got one, two in fact, and he puts the flip through his paces and wonders if the big boys should be worried.
It used to be that if you wanted to record a story in high definition, or HD, for a show like Media 7, you needed a professional camera and a camera operator that knows how to use one. You'd then need an editing suite and a skilled editor. The camera and sound gear might set you back around 20,000, or at least 700 to use for a day. While a fully equipped edit suite might cost you $100,000 to establish, or you can rent one for around $600 a day. Tonight, we are at a launch party for a device that promises to put the heat on prices. It claims to have the camera, sound, and editing in one small unit, all for less than $400. And we are filming with both it and a traditional camera. See? It's called the Flip. It's cell phone sized and records up to an hour of HD footage. Once you have your recordings, you simply flip the USB stick and insert it into your computer. On the drive, you will find the software you need to edit together stories and also easy ways to then post what you've done direct to YouTube. It isn't perfect. As you can see, the quality isn't as good as the grown-up camera, although, to be fair, much of this was shot in low light. However, the sound quality is a real concern, as you can hear the difference, and there's no place to plug in a mic to improve it. But as a first step to making high-quality recording cheap and ubiquitous, it is impressive. There are amazing possible applications for filming in places you can't go with a big setup, and for covert filming too. And troubling tech trends, such as sexting, the practice of kids sending pics of their ghoulies to each other, may change too. Having access to an hour of HD recording so handy and informally may make for some long-term headaches. But overall, it is a pretty cool bit of kit. That's the Flip, available now.
Simon Pound with that report. After the break, Broadcasting Minister Jonathan Coleman.